The sleek black sedan came to a smooth stop in front of the towering glass structure of the Horizon Hotel, its modern facade reflecting the vibrant energy of downtown. Simone Caldwell stepped out with the quiet confidence of a woman who had faced and overcome countless barriers. Dressed in a navy-tailored suit that spoke of understated elegance, she adjusted her bag over her shoulder, her polished heels clicking against the pavement. Her assistant, Nina Harper, followed close behind, a bundle of energy and efficiency in her sharp gray ensemble. Simone paused briefly to take in the impressive sight of the hotel's grand entrance. A curved driveway lined with meticulously trimmed greenery led to a set of glass doors that opened and closed in a mechanical rhythm, revealing glimpses of the lavish lobby inside. The Horizon Hotel was known for its exclusivity and luxury, a crown jewel for the city's elite. Yet, Simone couldn't ignore the twinge of unease that settled in her chest as she approached the doors. She had learned through experience that spaces like these often judged people by their skin before their resumes. "Everything's confirmed, right?" Simone asked, glancing at Nina, who was juggling her phone in a sleek leather folder. "Triple confirmed," Nina replied with a reassuring smile. "You're booked in the presidential suite for the week. They should be rolling out the red carpet for you." Simone gave her a small nod, though her expression remained neutral. Red carpets weren't something she expected, despite her wealth and accomplishments. She had come a long way from her modest beginnings, founding and leading a tech empire that now spanned continents. But even billion-dollar success couldn't shield her from the subtle and sometimes not so subtle biases she encountered in these circles. The glass doors whooshed open as they stepped into the hotel lobby. The space was breathtaking, designed to impress. Marble floors gleamed under the light of a massive crystal chandelier. The air was perfumed with a subtle hint of lavender, and the soft strains of classical music provided a calming backdrop. Guests lounged in clusters, sipping sparkling water from crystal glasses, as staff bustled around with quiet efficiency. "Wow," Nina murmured under her breath, momentarily awestruck. Simone said nothing, her sharp eyes scanning the room, catching the faint flicker of glances that followed them. She was accustomed to this, curious, fleeting stares from people trying to place her. Was she a celebrity? An athlete? The reality that she might simply be a successful businesswoman rarely crossed their minds. They approached the reception desk, where a young woman in a neatly pressed uniform stood poised with a practiced smile. "Good afternoon. Welcome to the Horizon Hotel," she greeted, her voice honeyed with professionalism. But as Simone and Nina stopped before her, the woman's smile faltered, just slightly, her eyes flitting to Simone's face. It was a nearly imperceptible hesitation, but Simone caught it. "We have a reservation under Caldwell," Nina said confidently, placing the leather folder on the counter. The assistant's tone was crisp and professional, leaving no room for error. The receptionist's fingers moved over her keyboard, but Simone noticed the slight tremor in her hands. Her eyes darted to Simone again, and her expression stiffened. "One moment, please," she said, her voice tight. Her fingers paused mid-type before continuing at a slower pace. Simone exchanged a glance with Nina, who raised an eyebrow. It wasn't the first time they had encountered this kind of subtle resistance. Whether it was the hesitation in a clerk's voice, the accidental misplacement of a reservation, or the sudden unexpected unavailability of rooms, Simone could almost anticipate the excuses that would follow. After a prolonged silence, the receptionist looked up, her polite smile now replaced by a strained expression. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Caldwell," she began, her tone overly apologetic. "It seems we're having trouble locating your reservation. Are you sure it's for this week?" Nina's eyes narrowed and she leaned slightly forward. "Yes, I'm sure," she said sharply. "I confirmed this twice over the phone and received a confirmation email from your office. Would you like me to pull it up?" Simone remained calm, watching the exchange unfold with a practiced composure. The receptionist visibly flinched under Nina's assertiveness but managed a weak smile. "If you could give me just a moment," she stammered, picking up the phone and dialing a number. Simone took a slow breath, her hands resting on the counter as she glanced around the lobby. A couple nearby had turned to watch the interaction, their expressions curious. Staff members whispered to one another near a service door, occasionally glancing her way. The air was thick with unspoken judgment, the kind that Simone had grown all too familiar with over the years. After a moment, a man in a crisp suit approached the desk. His silver hair and air of authority marked him as someone in management. "Good afternoon," he said smoothly, addressing Simone with a tight smile. "I'm Andrew Walker, the assistant manager. I understand there's a concern with your reservation." "There shouldn't be," Simone replied evenly, her voice calm but firm. "I booked the presidential suite weeks ago and confirmed it multiple times. Is there a problem?" Andrew's smile tightened and he clasped his hands together. "We apologize for the inconvenience, Ms. Caldwell," he said, his tone saccharine. "Unfortunately, it seems there was a mix-up in our system, and the suite you reserved is no longer available." Nina's mouth fell open in disbelief. "You're kidding me!" Simone raised a hand to silence her assistant. "And the other suites?" she asked, her tone steady. "Surely a hotel of this caliber has alternatives." Andrew hesitated, the faintest hint of discomfort flickering across his face. "I'm afraid we're fully booked at the moment," he said, his voice softening as if that would cushion the blow. Simone studied him for a long moment. She saw the unease in his posture, the slight glimmer of guilt in his eyes. It wasn't just a system error. She knew that much. But calling him out here and now would only give him what he expected. A show, a scene. Simone refused to give him the satisfaction. "I see," she said finally, her expression unreadable. "Thank you for your time." As they left the desk, Nina's frustration boiled over. "This is outrageous," she fumed. "You know they're lying, right? They probably gave the suite to someone else the minute they saw us." Simone nodded thoughtfully, her eyes scanning the grandiose surroundings. "Perhaps," she said, "but this isn't the first time I've been in a situation like this, and it won't be the last." "Why didn't you push back?" Nina asked, her voice edged with disbelief. "We had every right to that room." Simone stopped and turned to her assistant, her expression calm but resolute. "Because arguing wouldn't change their minds. It would only give them an excuse to paint us as the problem. I don't play on their terms, Nina." The weight of Simone's words hung in the air for a moment before she added, "We'll handle this another way." As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, Simone paused, her gaze lingering on the Horizon Hotel's gleaming facade. It was a striking building, its modern architecture standing in stark contrast to the historic structure surrounding it. To the casual observer, it was the epitome of success and sophistication. But Simone saw through the glossy exterior. "They think they've won," she said softly, almost to herself. "What do you mean?" Nina asked. Simone's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes still fixed on the hotel. "They think denying us entry protects their image, but what they don't realize is that their exclusivity is their weakness." Nina frowned, confused. "What are you planning?" Simone turned to her, her expression filled with quiet determination. "They've shown us their cards, Nina. Now it's time for us to play ours. Let's go home. We have work to do." As they walked toward their car, Simone's mind was already racing. She wasn't one to let an insult go unanswered, but she had learned that the best revenge was not confrontation. It was transformation. The Horizon Hotel had made its stance clear. Now she would make hers. That night, as Simone sat in her penthouse study, the city lights glittering through the windows, she began to piece together a plan. Her laptop screen illuminated her face as she delved into research, uncovering every detail she could about the Horizon Hotel's ownership, finances, and operations. She discovered cracks in its foundation, financial struggles that the hotel's luxurious image masked but could not entirely hide. Nina Harper, her ever-reliable assistant, walked into the room holding 2 steaming mugs of tea. "Chamomile," she said, setting one down on the desk. "You've been at it for hours. Thought you could use a break." Simone glanced up with a small smile of gratitude, but her focus quickly returned to the screen. "Thank you, Nina. But I think I'm on to something." Nina leaned over, peering at the rows of financial data Simone had pulled up. "You're already digging into them?" she asked, a note of admiration in her voice. "Didn't waste any time, huh?" "I don't waste time," Simone replied smoothly, her fingers scrolling through spreadsheets. "Look at this. For all their pretentious posturing, the horizon is hanging by a thread." Nina perched on the edge of the desk, sipping her tea. "How so?" Simone tapped a line of figures with a manicured nail. "Occupancy rates have been slipping for years. Their overhead is enormous, and they've been keeping up appearances by slashing operational budgets and relying on a few high-profile events. Their exclusivity isn't just about maintaining a brand, it's a desperate ploy to cling to relevance." Nina's eyes widened. "They're struggling. They wouldn't want anyone to know that." Simone leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Exactly. They've invested so much into projecting an image of unattainable luxury that they've alienated a massive portion of their potential clientele, and that's where I come in." "You're thinking about buying them out, aren't you?" Nina asked, a grin slowly forming on her face. Simone returned her assistant's knowing look. "Of course I am. Why would I fight to get into a place like that when I can own it instead? If they won't let me in as a guest," she said, her voice dropping to a determined murmur, "I'll walk in as the owner." Nina set her tea down, her excitement building. "Okay, so what's the play? We're talking about a luxury hotel with a legacy clientele. Even if they're struggling, the investors won't let go easily." Simone smiled, the kind of smile that had unsettled countless competitors over the years. "That's where we get creative. The Horizon's vulnerabilities aren't just in its finances. Its brand is stagnant, its reputation built on outdated ideas of exclusivity. What I'm offering isn't just a buyout. It's a chance to innovate, to stay relevant in a changing market. And if they don't take the offer," she shrugged, "we'll let time and their mounting losses do the convincing." Nina couldn't hide her admiration. "You really don't back down, do you?" Simone's eyes softened slightly, though her resolve didn't waver. "Nina, I've spent my entire life fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be respected in rooms that were never built for people like me. This is bigger than me now. It's about creating spaces where no one else has to fight that same battle." Nina nodded, the weight of Simone's words settling between them. "So, what's the next step?" Simone turned back to her laptop, her fingers already moving across the keyboard. "I start building my case, financial assessments, potential partners, and a rebranding strategy. The Horizon isn't just going to be a hotel anymore, it's going to be a statement, a symbol of inclusivity and progress." The rest of the evening passed in a flurry of activity. Nina, ever the efficient assistant, began compiling lists of potential allies, developers, architects, and influential figures who could lend credibility to the plan. Simone meticulously reviewed every detail of the Horizon's financial history, piecing together the story of a grand institution slowly crumbling under the weight of its own exclusivity. As the hours ticked by, the outline of their strategy began to take shape. Simone's vision wasn't just to buy the Horizon and continue business as usual. She intended to transform it from the ground up. She envisioned a space that blended luxury with accessibility, where every guest, regardless of their background, could experience the same level of comfort and respect. It would be a model for a new era of hospitality. By the time the city skyline began to fade into the soft hues of dawn, Simone leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. "That's it," she said, pushing her laptop aside. "We have our foundation." Nina, bleary-eyed but energized, set down her pen. "You've turned their rejection into a revolution." Simone chuckled softly, standing to stretch. "It's not a revolution yet, but it will be." She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the city bathed in the golden light of morning. The Horizon isn't ready for what's coming, but they'll learn. Nina joined her at the window, the city stretching out before them. "You've got the vision, Simone. Now it's just about executing it." Simone nodded, her reflection in the glass staring back at her with quiet determination. "And that," she said, "is what I do best." The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the sleek conference room, casting a warm glow on the glossy mahogany table that dominated the space. Simone Caldwell sat at the head of the table, a figure of calm authority. Around her, her legal team busied themselves with stacks of meticulously prepared documents. The air buzzed with quiet intensity. Months of work had led to this moment. Simone adjusted the lapel of her blazer and glanced at Nina Harper, who sat beside her, scrolling through her tablet with a sharp focus. "Are we ready?" Simone asked, her voice steady but carrying an edge of anticipation. Nina nodded. "Everything's in place. The Horizon stakeholders are primed for this meeting. They think it's just another high-stakes negotiation." Simone smirked. "Then let's give them a negotiation they won't forget." The road to this moment had been calculated and deliberate. Simone had worked quietly, ensuring her identity was shielded as her legal and financial teams approached the Horizon stakeholders. Through intermediaries, she had presented her offer, a buyout package generous enough to make the hotel's investors reconsider their exclusivity-driven business model. The Horizon, once a symbol of unshakable prestige, had been struggling under the weight of its own outdated practices. Declining occupancy rates and the shifting demographics of high-end clientele had left its finances vulnerable. Simone had studied their ledgers and board minutes with the precision of a surgeon, identifying every weakness and vulnerability. Her offer was not only lucrative, it was a lifeline. Over weeks of negotiations, the stakeholders had been persuaded. To them, the anonymous buyer represented an opportunity to offload a floundering asset without tarnishing their reputations. All that was left now was the signing of the final contracts. The door to the conference room swung open, and the Horizon's board of stakeholders entered, a mixture of seasoned investors and business strategists. Their carefully composed faces betrayed no emotion, but Simone could see the flickers of curiosity as they took in her composed demeanor. They knew little about her, only that she represented a well-funded entity with a vision for revitalizing the Horizon. "Ms. Caldwell," began Simon Reed, a balding man in an impeccably tailored suit who acted as the lead negotiator for the board. His tone was formal but polite. "We've reviewed your offer thoroughly. I must say, it's ambitious." Simone smiled coolly. "Ambition is what built your hotel, and it's what will save it." Reed nodded, taking his seat at the table. "Shall we get started?" As the discussion unfolded, Simone's legal team guided the negotiation with precision. Each question or objection raised by the stakeholders was met with clear, confident answers, backed by detailed financial projections and strategic plans. Simone, though silent for much of the meeting, watched every exchange intently, her presence a constant reminder that this was not a negotiation where they held all the power. When Reed finally leaned back in his chair and folded his hands, Simone knew the moment had arrived. "Well, Miss Caldwell," he said, a hint of grudging respect in his voice, "I believe we've reached an agreement. Your terms are certainly favorable for both parties. Let's move to the signing." One by one, the contracts were signed, the stakeholders' pens scratching across the paper in what felt like an audible surrender. Simone was the last to sign, her signature elegant and deliberate. As the final document was passed back to her legal team, a wave of satisfaction washed over her. The Horizon Hotel was now hers. Reed offered a stiff handshake. "Congratulations, Miss Caldwell. We look forward to seeing what you do with the place." Simone held his hand firmly, her expression unreadable. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. I'm certain you'll find the Horizon's future transformative." The room buzzed with the muted sound of briefcases being closed and documents being shuffled as the stakeholders prepared to leave. Simone, however, remained seated. "Before you go," she said, her voice cutting through the quiet hum, "there's something I'd like to share." The room stilled. Reed hesitated, then sat back down, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. The other stakeholders exchanged glances but followed suit. Simone took her time, her gaze sweeping the room. She wanted them to feel the weight of the moment. "When I approached you with this offer," she began, "I made sure to keep my identity concealed. It was important to me that you judge the value of this proposal on its merits alone. Reed tilted his head slightly, his confusion deepening. And now you've chosen to reveal yourself? Simone nodded, her voice steady but charged with emotion. Yes, because this isn't just a business acquisition for me. It's personal. She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Reed's. A few months ago, I walked into the Horizon as a guest. I had a reservation, confirmed weeks in advance. But when I arrived, I was told there was no room for me. The manager insisted I leave, despite my assistant's protests and the proof we provided. The room was silent, the air heavy with tension. Reed's face paled as realization began to dawn on him. That's when I decided, Simone continued, her voice growing firmer. If the Horizon wouldn't welcome me as a guest, I would return as something they couldn't turn away, its owner. The weight of her words settled over the room like a thunderclap. The stakeholders sat in stunned silence, their carefully constructed facades cracking under the gravity of Simone's revelation. Reed's mouth opened, then closed, as if he couldn't decide whether to apologize or defend himself. Simone leaned back, her expression calm but unyielding. This hotel represents everything I've fought against my entire life: exclusion, bias, and the assumption that people like me don't belong in spaces like this. That ends today. The stakeholders' discomfort was palpable, but Simone didn't care. This wasn't about their feelings, it was about making them face the consequences of their actions, or inactions. She rose from her seat, gathering her documents with deliberate grace. I'll be overseeing the transformation of the Horizon personally, she said, her voice ringing with authority. This hotel will no longer be a symbol of exclusion. It will be a place where everyone, regardless of their background, feels welcome and valued. She paused at the door, turning back to the room one last time. The Horizon's legacy may have been built on exclusivity, but its future will be built on inclusivity, and I'll make sure of that. Without waiting for a response, Simone walked out of the room, Nina following close behind. The silence of the stakeholders, now owners in name only, lingered behind her, a testament to the power of her resolve. As Simone stepped into the elevator, Nina let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. You really know how to command a room, she said, grinning. Simone smiled faintly, her eyes fixed on the glowing numbers descending. It wasn't about commanding the room, Nina. It was about making them understand. This isn't just business. It's justice. As the elevator doors opened to the bustling lobby, Simone strode out with a newfound sense of purpose. The Horizon Hotel was hers, and its transformation was just beginning. For the first time in its history, the Horizon was about to become a place where everyone belonged. The Horizon Hotel had always been a beacon of luxury, its towering glass facade shimmering under the downtown skyline. But under Simone Caldwell's leadership, it was transforming into something much more, a symbol of inclusivity and progress. The once aloof atmosphere of exclusivity was giving way to a welcoming embrace of diversity, where opulence was no longer synonymous with exclusion. The first week of Simone's ownership was marked by a whirlwind of meetings with her new team. She convened with department heads, introduced herself to staff, and made her expectations clear. In the grand ballroom, still adorned with gilded chandeliers and marble floors, she addressed the employees as a whole. We're not just running a hotel, Simone began, her voice calm but resolute. We're creating an experience, one where everyone feels welcome, respected, and valued. This is not just about luxury, it's about purpose. The Horizon will be a place where anyone from any background can walk through those doors and know they belong. The applause was hesitant at first, but as Simone continued to outline her vision, a spark of inspiration began to ignite among the staff. She spoke of implementing policies that celebrated diversity, creating opportunities for underrepresented communities, and ensuring that the Horizon's grandeur served as a backdrop for unity rather than division. Simone wasted no time turning her words into action. One of her first initiatives was overhauling the hiring process. She partnered with local community organizations to source talent from underrepresented groups, offering positions in everything from housekeeping to management. For Simone, the goal wasn't just to fill roles, it was to build a team that reflected the rich diversity of the city. In the hotel's recruitment office, she introduced a mentorship program aimed at empowering young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to pursue careers in hospitality. The program, called Horizon Futures, offered internships, hands-on training, and career development workshops. Simone personally met with each mentee, listening to their dreams and ensuring they felt supported. The transformation extended beyond the staff. Simone implemented policy changes to ensure every guest was treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their background. She replaced outdated practices with a clear code of conduct for inclusivity, backed by mandatory training sessions for all employees. "These aren't just rules," Simone told the team during a training session. "They're commitments to ourselves, to each other, and to the guests we serve." The Horizon's aesthetic also underwent subtle but meaningful changes. While the hotel retained its hallmark elegance, polished marble, sleek modern furnishings, and expansive views, it began to feature art and decor that celebrated the diversity of its community. Local artists were commissioned to create pieces that showcased the city's cultural heritage, and the lobby was filled with vibrant murals depicting scenes of unity and resilience. The restaurant menu, once dominated by European haute cuisine, now offered a fusion of global flavors, highlighting dishes inspired by local immigrant communities. Simone worked closely with the head chef to curate a dining experience that was as inclusive as it was luxurious. "Our guests should taste the world when they dine here," she said during one of their planning sessions. "Luxury is in the richness of diversity." As word of the Horizon's transformation spread, the hotel became more than just a destination for travelers. It became a gathering place for the community. Simone hosted monthly networking events for local entrepreneurs, many of whom had faced the same barriers she had in her rise to success. She offered discounted event spaces to nonprofits and organized charity galas to support causes close to her heart. One afternoon, Simone met with a group of local students as part of the Horizon Futures mentorship program. She stood in the hotel's expansive kitchen, watching as a young woman named Tasha carefully plated a dish under the guidance of the executive chef. Tasha looked up, her eyes wide with excitement. "I never thought I'd get to work in a place like this," she said. "Thank you, Ms. Caldwell." Simone smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You earned this opportunity, Tasha, and remember, this is just the beginning." Months of hard work culminated in the Horizon's grand reopening gala. The hotel sparkled with renewed energy, its transformation apparent in every detail. The lobby buzzed with activity as guests arrived, an eclectic mix of city officials, business leaders, artists, and community members. The once exclusive space now radiated warmth and vibrancy. In the ballroom, tables were adorned with centerpieces featuring flowers from local urban gardens, and the air was filled with the harmonious strains of a jazz quartet. Guests mingled, sampling hors d'oeuvres that reflected the hotel's newly diverse menu. Simone stood at the edge of the room, taking it all in. Beside her, Nina offered a quiet smile. "It's everything you envisioned." Simone nodded. "It's a start." As the evening unfolded, Simone took the stage to address the crowd. The room fell silent as she approached the microphone, her elegant black gown shimmering under the chandeliers. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady and full of purpose. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This is a moment I've been dreaming of, not just for the Horizon, but for what it represents." She paused, her eyes scanning the room. "Not long ago, I walked into this hotel as a guest, or rather I tried to. I was turned away. In that moment, I was reminded of something I've faced my whole life, that there are still spaces where people like me aren't welcome." The crowd listened intently, the weight of her words sinking in. "But instead of walking away defeated, I made a decision," Simone continued. "I decided to come back, not as a guest, but as an owner. And I made it my mission to ensure that this place would never again close its doors to anyone because of who they are." She gestured around the room, her gaze steady. "Luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about embracing the richness of our shared humanity. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels valued, respected, and celebrated. And that's what the Horizon is now. The room erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the ballroom like a wave of affirmation. Simone stepped back, allowing herself a moment to bask in the energy of the crowd. As the gala wound down, Simone stood by the balcony, gazing out at the city lights. Guests approached her, offering congratulations and sharing stories of how the Horizon's transformation had inspired them. It was a night of triumph, but Simone knew her work was far from over. "This is just the beginning," she murmured to Nina as they watched the last of the guests filter out. "The real challenge is ensuring this legacy endures." Nina nodded. "If anyone can do it, it's you." Simone smiled. "Not just me. All of us. Together." As she turned back toward the ballroom, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Horizon Hotel was no longer just a building, it was a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of perseverance and the belief that true luxury lies in inclusion. And for Simone Caldwell, the journey was only beginning. The sun poured through the expansive windows of Simone Caldwell's office, bathing the room in golden light. The view beyond was a testament to transformation, a bustling Horizon Hotel, its grand entrance welcoming a diverse array of guests. The once exclusive establishment had become a symbol of inclusivity, where opulence was intertwined with equality. But for Simone, this success was not the culmination of her journey. It was a stepping stone toward something greater. In the months following the Horizon's transformation, news of its rebranding began to spread. Articles praised the hotel's inclusive policies and community-driven initiatives. Travelers, activists, and entrepreneurs alike applauded Simone's leadership. More importantly, her actions sparked conversations within the hospitality industry. Luxury hotels that had once clung to outdated traditions were beginning to reconsider their practices. Simone began receiving calls from other hotel owners and managers, seeking advice on how to replicate the Horizon's success. Some inquiries came from skeptics, wary of change but intrigued by the Horizon's thriving business model. Others were from visionaries eager to adopt a similar mission. Recognizing an opportunity to create lasting impact, Simone formed a coalition of inclusive luxury properties. She named it the Open Horizon Alliance, symbolizing her belief in creating spaces without barriers. The coalition's mission was clear: to redefine luxury by embracing diversity, fostering community, and setting new standards for inclusivity. Simone's days were filled with strategy meetings, site visits, and discussions with prospective partners. Each hotel that joined the alliance underwent a rigorous transformation process, adopting policies inspired by the Horizon's success. Staff were trained in cultural competency, recruitment practices prioritized underrepresented groups, and local communities became integral to each property's identity. One of the first properties to join the alliance was a historic coastal resort known for its exclusivity. Simone visited the resort personally, meeting with its owners and staff to outline her vision. "This isn't just about following a trend," she explained during a meeting in their ornate boardroom. "It's about creating a legacy. When guests walk into your hotel, they should feel like they belong, no matter who they are or where they come from. That's the future of luxury." Her words resonated, and the resort joined the alliance, implementing changes that mirrored those at the Horizon. Soon, more properties followed: a boutique hotel in New York City, a sprawling vineyard estate in Napa Valley, a high-rise resort in Miami. Each one brought its unique flair to the coalition while upholding the shared values of inclusion and equity. The expansion wasn't without its challenges. Resistance arose from traditionalists who clung to the belief that exclusivity was synonymous with luxury. Critics accused Simone of diluting the industry standards, but she met every obstacle with the same calm determination that had carried her through the Horizon's transformation. "I'm not here to erase tradition," she said in an interview with a major hospitality magazine. "I'm here to redefine it. True luxury isn't about keeping people out. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels valued." Her resilience paid off. As more hotels joined the alliance and adopted its principles, the ripple effect grew. The industry began to shift, with competitors scrambling to adapt. Major hospitality chains launched diversity initiatives, and boutique properties began showcasing their local communities' cultures and histories. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside her window, Simone sat in her office, a cup of tea in hand. The once towering pile of paperwork on her desk had dwindled to a few neatly stacked folders. She glanced at the framed photographs lining the walls, a snapshot of the Horizon's grand reopening, a group picture with the first class of Horizon Futures interns, and an image of her and Nina standing triumphantly in the hotel's lobby. As if on cue, Nina knocked lightly and stepped into the room, a familiar warmth in her expression. "You're still here?" she teased, setting a folder on the desk. "You do realize you're allowed to leave work at a reasonable hour, right?" Simone chuckled, setting her tea down. "Reasonable hours don't change the world, Nina." Nina smiled as she pulled up a chair. "No, but you've already done more than most people could dream of." Simone leaned back, a thoughtful look crossing her face. "It doesn't feel like enough. Every step forward reminds me of how far we still have to go. I see the impact we're making, but I also see the spaces that still need to change." Nina nodded, her tone turning reflective. "You've faced so much just to get here, the rejection, the barrier, and now look at what you've built." Simone's eyes softened. "It wasn't just me. You've been with me every step of the way. We've come a long way, Nina, and we'll go further. This is just the beginning." Nina smiled, her admiration for Simone evident. "You know, you've done more than change hotels. You've changed lives." Simone's gaze drifted to the window, the bustling city below, a reminder of the countless people who inspired her work. "That's the goal, to create something bigger than myself, a legacy that opens doors for others." As the months turned into years, the Open Horizon Alliance became a movement that reshaped the industry. Simone's hotels not only thrived financially, but also became symbols of progress. Guests shared their stories of feeling welcomed in spaces that once seemed inaccessible. Interns from the mentorship program rose through the ranks, becoming leaders in their own right. One such intern, Maya Alvarez, became the general manager of a prominent Alliance hotel. At a celebration marking her promotion, she approached Simone with tears in her eyes. "You gave me a chance when no one else would," Maya said, her voice trembling. "You showed me what was possible. Thank you for believing in me." Simone hugged her, a deep sense of fulfillment washing over her. "You earned this, Maya, and now it's your turn to believe in others." Simone's journey from rejection to revolution was more than a story of resilience. It was a testament to the power of grace, determination, and vision. What began as a single hotel's transformation had blossomed into an international coalition, touching lives and redefining an industry. As Simone stood on the balcony of her office one evening, watching the lights of the Horizon Hotel glow against the night sky, she allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. She had turned a moment of exclusion into a movement of inclusion. And while the work was far from over, she knew that the seeds she had planted would continue to grow, long after she was gone. Because true success, she had learned, wasn't about breaking through barriers for yourself. It was about breaking them down so others could follow. And in that, Simone Caldwell's legacy was just beginning. If this story inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us on more journeys of triumph, transformation, and the power of breaking barriers. Let's keep the conversation alive and continue building a world where everyone belongs. Together, we can make it happen.